Welcome to the show. Frank Kermit is a relationship and a dating coach. You can find Frank Kermit's information at franktalks.com. You can also call him. His numbers on the website. He is an author and speaker. And if you want to have a coaching session with Frank Kermit, you can mention my name, Joey Roselli, and you will get a free ebook. Is that correct, Frank?
That's right. I've written over 20 ebooks, so if you have a particular problem and I have an ebook that'll solve that problem, call me up, mention Joey's name, and you get that free ebook.
Thanks for that, Frank. So welcome today. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm doing okay. It's one day at a time. Every day is one day at a time, and we're surviving, and everybody's good.
Do you find, specifically in your field, in relationship and passion and love and dating, do you find there is a wave or a fluctuation of dating apps going up, of dates going down, of people talking about love and relationships, whether it's their marriage or young love? Do you find there's a bit more chatter during these uncertain times because they're living together?
I think part of what's going on right now is that people have an abundance of choice, and choice is good. You have an abundance of choice. If you don't want to be in a serious relationship and you want to date casually, you have that freedom of choice. If you want to seek out a very serious relationship and hold out for that, you have that power of choice. If you want to date casually, have some fun, but you've always got something in mind in terms of getting more serious in the future, you have that choice. The challenge with having so much choice is that if you don't know what to do with all of this choice, you could end up miserable. The power of choice, without knowing what to do with it, which is a separate skill set, leads to a misery that's even worse than being in a situation where you have no choice.
But now, with all the choice that we have in front of us, how does that person know what they want? I know you're saying that it might lead you to misery, but how does that person maybe take step by step, leading them to knowing what they want, to know which choice to take?
Let's start off. Most people have some kind of an idea of where they think they may want to end up. Some people are already starting from the position of, I saw the way my mom and dad went, and I don't want to even enter into a serious relationship. And they have an idea of a certain lifestyle they want. Some people, because of, let's say, a cultural upbringing, a religious upbringing, have a certain goal that's been given to them as to what they will eventually want to achieve. So everybody has an idea of what they might want. How do you figure it out? Well, there's two paths you can take. The first path is very theoretical, where you look at the pros and the cons of every decision that you could possibly make. If you make a decision to be in a lifestyle where you want to be married, have kids, and so on, there's pros and cons. There's benefits and sacrifices. And you can look at it on paper, and on paper, something may look really good to you. And the second way, which is very important, you actually have to go out and date. You see, most people think going out to date is all about fun. Fun is a great thing to have, but the goal of dating is not to have fun. The goal of dating is self-discovery. Because each time you date someone new, that's where you find out whether or not you can handle a situation. In theory, I wouldn't have a problem dating someone who's a single parent. Actually try it. There are challenges in it that you may not have anticipated. The person is not available when I would really want to see them because their kids take priority. Can I handle that? Each time you date someone new, it is a journey of self-discovery, finding out what you truly can and cannot handle. And that is the best way to figure out what it is you want. To go out there, try it. And if it turns out that, this really doesn't sit well with me, I really don't like it, now you know it's not for you. And you take that self-knowledge into your next dating adventure and into your next dating adventure. Eventually, you will find what it is you're looking for, if nothing else, through a process of elimination. Let's also discuss that there's a difference between what you may do for fun and what is absolutely fulfilling. There are people who go out there and they want to have fun. And again, fun is a good thing. It's a tool to learn about yourself. But fun doesn't always equal fulfillment. The person you have great chemistry with may not necessarily be the person that you have a lot of compatibility with. The person that you're really drawn to and you want to chase and you want to have that wow might not be the person you can trust with your bank account, might not be the person you trust to raise your children, might not be the person you trust when your life is on the line and they're the ones to decide if the plug gets pulled. These are really, really important discussions for a person to have. So when you're going out there and dating and your goal is to have fun, always remember that it's just a stepping stone to self-discovery and figuring out what it is you want long-term for yourself.
Is it important to think long-term, as you said, with the examples of, do I want this person to make the decision of pulling the plug if I'm in a hospital bed, or make the decision of working with my bank account, etc. At a young age, and people in their 20s, 30s, are they even thinking of those questions? Are they thinking long-term, or are they just thinking to fulfill themselves for that instant gratification?
What I find amongst my client base that are, let's say, is 25 years old and younger, and I don't work with minors who have to be a legal adult for me to work with. What I find is that that particular group, at least as far as my client base goes, so I don't want to make a generalized statement that I can't back up, but amongst my client group, I'm dealing with a number of individuals who grew up in broken homes, shared custody. They saw mom and dad get vicious with each other in court. They saw one parent completely lying about the other in court. They may have been on the receiving end of lies about parent A because parent B was trying to turn the kids against parent A. So they're not necessarily coming from the best examples of what a loving relationship is. They may have no real concept of it other than, well, a loving relationship is when two people love each other. Well, in theory, their parents, who are their primary examples, probably started from a relationship that had some love in it and something went wrong. So are they thinking long term? Most of them are thinking, I want to avoid that situation altogether. How do I do that? I still feel this need. I want to connect. I want to have sex. I want to have intimacy. I want something, but I don't want to take certain risks. So are they thinking long term? The majority of them, I would say, when it comes to long-term thinking, their primary concern is they don't want to end up with somebody that's going to potentially destroy them. And that brings up a lot of guards.
Yeah, and we see that so often, especially in the dating world that I'm currently in. I see that so often that I find myself stuck between either option A or B, where A is an extreme and B is an extreme, where the A is very easygoing, outgoing, just wants to have a casual relationship and casual date, whereas B is strictly thinking long term, lockdown relationship, and all guards are closed. You have to take the time to chase and break down those levels of guards.
Right. What I usually take my clients through in terms of the coaching process, I teach them all the same rule, and that is commitment must be earned. Commitment must be earned. So if somebody wants to date casually, the question to ask someone like that is not, well, why do you want to date casually? The question to ask someone like that is, what would it take for you to consider possibly getting serious in the future? That changes the answer. Because the question is no longer, well, what do you want right now? Well, right now I just want to date casually. What would it take? What criteria would have to be present in order for you to even consider getting serious? Now we start looking at what they really want. More importantly, what they respond to. I need someone that I could trust, and I need someone that I have great chemistry with, and I need someone where we're compatible sexually. And now we start delving into their criteria. And as long as we get them thinking about their criteria, then okay, so it's not that it's never a possibility to get more serious. It's you have to learn how to identify and how to test for the criteria that would make you willing. And to the people who are, let's say, I only want to focus on a serious relationship and I don't want casual dating and so um, on paper, that looks like a great approach. But they're missing a very fundamental point, and that is through the dating process, you learn about yourself. You learn how to handle conflicts. One of the things I find when I'm coaching people, not just young people, but even when I'm coaching somebody who has been perpetually single for 10 plus years, what's the one element that they struggle with when they get into relationships? Conflict management. They're not used to compromising on anything. They haven't had to. And it could be something as simple as they're not used to having somebody sleep in the same bed as them. Oh, that person was snoring, and how can I get any sleep? And well, you're just not used to it. So yeah, it's not going to be comfortable. The person has a different body temperature than you do, and you need the fan because they're sleeping here. And no, I'm going to sleep on the couch, and this is ridiculous. And, well, that was always part of it. It's not that the person you're with is particularly difficult. You just haven't had enough experience to deal with that type of conflict resolution. And one of the challenges of somebody who is immersed in a hookup culture, with all due respect to anybody calling the current hookup culture like the new thing, that hookup culture has existed for years. That's why you have so many organizations that helped people with adoption issues. Oh, we hooked up, there was no birth control. Here's a kid, find it a good home. That hookup culture has always existed. Prior to what we're facing now, even the most notorious players would still find fulfillment saying, okay, I had my fun, I did what I had to do, but now I want something more serious. I want something fulfilling. I've had my fun. Where we are right now and what's different about our current times is that we have an entire generation or a few generations of people that don't even have a proper example of a loving relationship that lasts. We don't have people with conflict resolution skills. When you make a commitment to be with somebody forever, but you're not promising that you're going to be happy all the time with them, because you won't. We're human, and we are horrible creatures to each other sometimes. Okay, we don't get along. We are imperfect creatures. And sometimes you grin and bear it. One of my most favorite lines that one of my mentors gave me was, sometimes when you really love somebody, you'll learn to eat garbage and you'll learn to love the taste. Not a great sentiment, but there are some times when you're not going to be happy, but you still stick to working on the relationship because you have those conflict resolution skills. And that's something that's missing.
And that's a really strong point, because as you mentioned before, people don't know how to manage conflicts, right? They don't know how to manage themselves, how they feel, how they react to it. And oftentimes that could, besides the root of the issue being that it was the way they were raised or their household or the environment that they were in for their childhood or for their young adulthood, is there any other reason why they're not understanding or learning how to develop those emotional needs? Sorry, not those emotional needs, how to develop those the management skills of conflicts.
There's so many generalizations. It's become a consumer-based society, and everything has been taught to be disposal, and relationships are disposal. One of the things that I try to encourage people to do is to say, okay, what is your goal? In an ideal world, what would be some of your relational goals? No matter how ridiculous you think this goal is or how unattainable, what do you think it is? Okay, well, I would want a loving relationship that allows me sexual fulfillment, that allows me compassion and understanding, and even a certain amount of freedom. Okay, well, that sounds great. What a wonderful ideal. Now comes the hard part. Can you become the kind of person who can sustain that? Do you want to be in a relationship that is compassionate to you, that's going to be understanding to you? Are you the kind of person that can be as compassionate and understanding to someone else? Can you lead by example? Everybody wants the amazing person who's going to be A, B, C, D, E on their list. Okay, are you the kind of person that will attract A, B, C, and D on your list? Are you the kind of person that can sustain a relationship? I want someone who's ambitious. I want someone who is independent. Well, if you happen to be a very lazy and needy person, are you going to attract an ambitious and independent person? Somebody who's ambitious and independent is probably going to be comfortable spending time away from you. Are you okay with that?
That's a good point.
When let's say I'm coaching somebody who's older and been through a couple of divorces, and they're saying, okay, I don't want any more divorces. Let me figure this out. Okay, you want somebody who is very successful at whatever it is they do as a profession. Well, someone who's really successful is going to spend a lot of time doing that profession. And what was one of the complaints about your past marriages? The other person didn't have very much time for you. Well, you got to make a choice. As I said earlier, everything you want, even if it's a great benefit, comes with some kind of sacrifice. So this is where I would start. If you're asking me, what's missing right now? What's missing, in my opinion, is that for whatever it is that somebody wants, they're not becoming the person who can attract that. They're not even becoming the person who can support that. And once we take care of that, once someone says, okay, if I want the kind of relationship that, let's say somebody wants to have an open relationship. I want the kind of relationship that gives me the freedom to go out and, sexually explore. Okay, so you need somebody who's non-judgmental, not too clingy, not too attached. You need someone who is very open-minded. But if you yourself can't handle somebody looking at someone else, you yourself are experiencing uncontrollable jealousy, you're probably not going to attract the kind of relationship you think you want.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it often leads to the same question and at the same point that you just raised, right? All women, all men, they all want A, B, C, D, and so on. They want all the elements in one single body, yet they can't even be that person for themselves, right? They can't even focus on themselves to be A, B, C, D, and E, yet they want to attract that person that is. And why is that? Is that because whether young man, young woman, no matter the age, or fresh in a marriage or late in a marriage, they want all the elements in a single person. Why is it that there's such a high expectancy rate? Is it because there was a lack of companionship in their younger days and their past experience?
All I can tell you, at least again, limited to my client base, okay? In my client base, when people say, I want all of these things, it's almost, and what I gather from my client base, they grew up thinking that I could have anything I want. I can have anything I want. If you want it, you can get it. You can believe in yourself and you can get it. There was a missing piece to that puzzle. And the missing piece is you actually got to work for that. I want to be the top corporate executive in this company. Okay, well, you're going to have to spend a few years in different positions working your way up. And you may get there in 15, 20, 30 years. So they grew up thinking, I could have anything I want, so why would I settle for something realistic that I got right now? Hey, this person likes me, but I could do better. If you could do better, you would be doing better already. But nobody wants to talk about that reality. No. Shh. When an entire group of people are growing up and being told, you can do it and you can have it all. There's only 24 hours in a day. And even people who have it all don't have it all. There's a sacrifice that has to be made. Now, Joey, in your program, you talk about things like good health, correct? You're looking to make the world a better place with some of the people you interview and trying to bring that information. I would bet that almost all of them are going to have some kind of a formula that says, so if you want this, you got to do a few things to get there, and you may even have to sacrifice a few other things. And that's the formula of success across the board, including dating and relationships. You want to have a certain kind of lifestyle, you got to become the kind of person that could sustain that lifestyle.
I was going to say, and a huge element that comes with that lifestyle of success, as you said, is sacrifice. And yet I think that's why people don't prioritize the sacrifices that it takes to attract that person or to be that person, which is why I often see with my friends or at my workplace or at my school is that the youngsters don't want to put in the work, the time, the effort, and the sacrifice to attract that person. So that is why it leads them often to casual dating, to casual sex. And then they struggle with it in the near future. They think that it punishes them in the near future, or they never want to find a long-term relationship because it's not easy. They want it hand given to them.
Mm-hmm. I'll go as far as to say that it's actually a little bit more difficult in the world of dating and relationships, because in almost every other endeavor, there is usually a set plan that somebody could follow in order to achieve that whatever goal is. So if a young man is thinking about becoming an engineer, without even being an engineer yourself, what would you tell that young man who's thinking about becoming an engineer? What would you advise that person?
I say that you got to go to school first of all. You got to study. You got to practice. You got to maybe find an internship, build your brand, build your niche, craft it, cultivate it.
Get yourself an internship, find a mentor. But there's already a path they can become.
Right.
If they want to become a white-collar professional, well, there's education programs for that. There's a path that they can take with that. They can go look at the type of industry they want to work in, start in the mailroom, work your way up, or start in the filing room and work your way up. In almost every path, there is already some kind of stepping stone in place. When it comes to dating and relationships, who was the primary source of teaching young people about how to create and manage successful relationships? It would be their parents and whatever is around the parents that the parents utilize, cultural practices, religious practices, and the parents' own real life experience. Something happened along the way there, because you're asking parents who they themselves haven't been able to make relationships work. For those that have made it work, very few of them had any training. Some of them just got lucky, or they just happened to have the personality that worked. They found a partner that was willing to tolerate their idiosyncrasies. So you're asking the blind to lead the blind. You're asking people who don't know what they're doing to be primarily responsible for teaching people what they should be doing. So, and I got to tell you, from the time I went through my personal development over 20 years ago, I had to do that primarily in secret. It was a taboo. You're reading a book on dating? You're reading a relationship? Hey, it'll just work out. It'll just happen. You worry too much. And I had always been told, like, well, there is no way to figure it out. It just sort of all, comes together and it's people. No, that was never good enough for me. Okay, this whole concept of, well, you'll just know. No, that's not good enough for me. Everything is measurable. Everything is quantifiable. Okay, yes, I may feel incredible passion for someone. There's a reason. It's not just because, oh, the spirits have brought me to you. It's because they are saying or doing something that addresses your particular set of emotional needs. You might not even like a person, but if you feel drawn to them, it's because they are addressing their emotional needs. What makes somebody in a 20-year marriage say, that's it, I've had enough. I feel like your mother. I feel like this is not working for me anymore. It's not like this great mystery. Emotional needs that were originally addressed, that brought two people together over the course of 20 years, become violated. And when somebody violates your emotional needs, you no longer feel like you want to be with them. So I began to study because I said, I want an answer. The thing I was most afraid of, and fear motivated me, the thing that most motivated me is I never wanted to get divorced. I was terrified of divorce. But my own parents had stayed married. It was the fact that I got stood up at my prom. I lost my ex-fiancée and one of my best friends. I hung out with a girl for nearly 2 years who always said, we can never date because we're of a different race, religion, and culture. And then one day, out of the blue, she announces, I've had a boyfriend for the past 6 months, and we're getting married, and he's of a different race, and religion, and culture. He's kind of like you. Once that series of events happened to me, and I said, I was devastated, actually became suicidal. And I said, either I figure this out or I'm going to kill myself. Because if I can't handle these horrible things, I'm not going to be able to handle a divorce. I'm not going to be able to handle not seeing my kids. So that put me on a path where nothing else became important. I read every book I could find. I talked to every mentor I could find. I went into different communities. I went into communities where I would talk to a monogamous couple that had been together for over 50 years, and I would say, what makes it work? And I would document everything they said. I would go to the swingers clubs, and I would talk to people who had been in the swinger culture for a number of years. How do you make this work? I would write down what they say. I would talk to people in the polyamorous community who have multiple emotional relationships with people. How do you make this work? And I would write down everything they said. And the end result of all that research was that nobody has it exactly figured out. People just do what works for them. And what works for one couple in one circle will not work for another couple in another circle. You have to figure out what works for you and then find someone who wants the same things you want. And is it hard to meet somebody out there? Well, that depends. If you have a really specific criteria list where just by doing the numbers on the population, it's like, wow, only a handful of people in every city is going to be eligible for me. Well, the more strict you are in your criteria, the more work you have to do to put yourself out there and expose yourself to those people. The less criteria you have, the easier it's going to be for you to meet somebody. When I met my current wife, our first date was 36 hours. And in those 36 hours, we talked about everything, my life plan, her life plan, my goals, her goals. It was hour 26 when we decided we should get married. We've been together now a long time. No, we've been together now for about 13, 14 years, okay? And, you know, have we had our problems, our fights, our share of, why did I sign up for this? Well, yeah, we're human. I'm a great guy, but I can be hard-headed and an idiot too. Was it easy to find her? No, I had to really put myself out there. I had to date a lot of people. I had to learn about myself. And even now, when her and I have a conflict, which we do, we're a married couple, just like anybody else. No special magic here. We love each other. I care about her deeply. But when we have a conflict, it's the same conflict resolution skills that I learned while I was dating.
Frank Kermit, relationship and dating coach. He is an author and speaker. You can find Frank Kermit and book a one-on-one coaching session with him at franktalks.com. And if you mention Joey Roselli, you mentioned my name, you will get a free ebook. Frank Kermit, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. This was phenomenal. We'll get you back on the show sometime soon.
All the best, everyone. Thank you for watching. Be well.